Okami, a beloved action-adventure game developed by Clover Studio and published by Capcom. The game received incredible reviews when it first came out back in 2006, being praised for its visual design. However, despite this, the game was considered a commercial failure in terms of sales. However, the game is still beloved and regarded highly amongst reviewers and gamers, and now the long-awaited sequel is currently being developed. So what better time to share my experience with Okami? This is the worst Pokemon trainer, and this is my journey through Okami and the journey it took to get the Platinum Trophy. To start things off, the game is absolutely beautiful, with an amazing art style and soundtrack. Easily a 10 out of 10 for me in that department. However, I do have some small issues with it. For example, I was playing on the PS3 version, and the Celestial Brush, which is a big part of the game, is a bit confusing to control with at first. This probably is easier to deal with on the PS4 because of the touchpad and on the Switch because of the touchscreen. Another nitpick I have is sometimes a game points you in a certain direction that you need to go, and other times it won't, so it's a little inconsistent in that regard. But my biggest issue with the game is its length. The game feels like it overstays its welcome. For context, the game starts off with you having to defeat this demon named Orochi. So you play the game for a while and face off against this antagonist who was sealed away prior to this game. So naturally, I think like, oh, this Orochi guy is the one that is going to be the final boss, right? But no, that's just part one of the game. After you defeat Orochi, his spirit floats away and you go off on a chase to finish him off for good. So at this point I'm like, oh, this is like halfway through the game, right? No, because after the next big boss is the Nine-Tailed Spirit. I'm not going to go super into detail about the story, but after you defeat the Nine-Tails, you go after another set of demons and then another evil demon before you finally beat the game. My issue is that the story at the beginning makes it seem like Orochi is a big final boss that you need to defeat. Even the opening cutscene, when you start up the game, only mentions Orochi and none of the other villains. So by the time I beat the Nine-Tails, I was like, oh, it's over. But no, it just kept going and going, and didn't provide the same depth of story for the other enemies. But again, these are just minor complaints. They're like nitpicks more than anything. The game, again, very solid action adventure with an amazing art style, as you can see, and is definitely worth playing even through casually. But how difficult was it to get the Platinum Trophy? Well, while not a difficult game, it is somewhat of a long journey. With an estimated time of 60 hours to get the Platinum, in reality it took me over 80. There's a total of 51 trophies including the Platinum Trophy. Thankfully it's only one playthrough. However, there is a point of no return at the end of the game, so if you want to do everything on one playthrough, you need to make sure to finish everything else before heading into the final area. There's a total of 31 trophies related to the story, so you'll get over half the trophies done just by beating the game. There are 3 missable trophies, however, as long as you don't go past the point of no return, you shouldn't have to worry about them. These trophies are from Imp to Demons that requires you to complete the Bestiary. I believe the game has a list for you to keep track of what you haven't beaten and what you have beaten. Some enemies only spawn through demon gates that are scattered throughout the game, and this trophy won't pop until you beat the final boss. Next is Snow Furball on the menu. This is only possible when you're being chased by the water dragon. You need to reach the shore without getting swallowed by the dragon. You only get one shot at this unless you made a save beforehand. The strat is simple. As soon as you gain control, just spam X in the water until you drown and you should just spawn on shore. There's no need to make any lily pads or anything like that. It's simple enough to do. The biggest missable trophy is bargaining up the cherry tree. You need to earn a cherry tree rank for each item in the total results screen after beating the game. This sounds intimidating, however, the requirements aren't really that bad, especially if you're keeping an eye on them. The first stat to worry about is the number of deaths. In order to get the cherry tree rank, you can't die more than 5 times throughout the game. I personally never died, but I did come close a couple of times, but honestly just spamming healing items and consumables, you should be fine. Next is enemies defeated, which you need to beat over 550 enemies for the cherry tree rank. Honestly, pretty simple. You're just fighting a bunch of stuff that you find in the overworld. There's plenty of fights that you have to do anyways, so just make sure to fight everything you come across. Money is the next thing that you need to worry about. You need to have 4 million in order to get the cherry tree rank. Sounds like a lot, but the finishing minigame helps a lot. That we'll talk about that later, and you can also sell the treasures that you pick up to make this easier. You will have to grind for it though. Next, you need to get 300 demon fangs. These are blue fangs that enemies drop. These are pretty easy to get as long as you're doing the brush slashes to finish off enemies. They are a little rare at the beginning, but throughout the game they'll stop popping up and honestly are pretty simple to get. Just make sure you get 300. The last one you need is praise. Praise is essentially XP that you get from feeding animals to level up your stats. You need about 4,500 praise at the end of the game. There is a trophy tied to this, so it's not really an issue. Honestly, just not dying and farming is probably the only thing you really have to keep worry. The other requirements have trophies related to them, so they're not a big deal to keep a track of. There is also 9 collectible trophies to get as well. I'm going to try and break them down real quick for you guys. All creatures great and small requires you to feed every type of animal in the game. There are a total of 20 different animals. From my understanding, this trophy is unmissable, so it shouldn't be that difficult to get. Next is teaching an old dog new tricks, which requires you to level every move in all 3 dojos. This just requires money to learn the moves. Fishing and selling treasures is the easiest way to make money if you need to farm it. From imps to demons requires you to defeat one of each enemy type, including bosses. This, again, as I mentioned, is missable, but the game does keep a track of what enemies you defeated. Just make sure that you follow a list and that you don't miss anything before going to the checkpoint where you can't progress back. Give all dog, all bones requires you to get 1 of each treasure in the game. This should be easy enough as you're collecting everything anyways and are bound to pop up this trophy without any issues. I personally don't remember having any issues with this one. You can also just sell all these treasures once you have them on your list. So that's another way to make money. Next is grab life by the leash. This requires you to max out all your health, ink, astral pouch, and your wallet. Simply feed animals to gain more praise to level these up. I believe completing missions as well gives you praise. No more fish in the sea requires you to complete the fish tome. This is probably the most time consuming collectible as there's 43 fish to collect. They're scattered between 4 fishing spots and they're scattered between day and night cycles. Again, thankfully there is a way to check which fish you have caught in game. So really, if you're missing anything and not sure where to find it, a simple Google search will help you find it easily. Have guides with travel requires you to complete your travel guide. Personally, I don't remember having any problems with getting this. There's a total of 30 of them, I believe. Some of them are brush techniques, which you automatically get. Some are game tips as well, and some are found in chests scattered throughout the world. So it shouldn't be that tough to find these. If you are missing something, a simple Google search will help you find anything that you're missing. Leave no chest unopened requires you to collect 100 stray beads. 99 in the world and 1 after beating the final boss. This is probably the biggest collectible next to the fishing one. Best save for last by the point of no return, because you have to have certain techniques to reach certain beads or chests. The game provides hints to where these are found, but honestly a video guide works best. Sniff them out requires you to defeat all monsters on the wanted list. All appear at night as ordinary enemies. You need to pay attention to the name of the enemy you're fighting, because you need to cross them off the list after you're done. Again, it shouldn't be too difficult if you're just using a guide to find where these guys are. With the collectibles out of the way, there's a few miscellaneous trophies to keep an eye out for. The first one being digging it, which requires you to beat the digging minigames. There are a total of 5 of these games. It's just like a maze that you have to pretty much get from the top to the bottom to find some water. They're really not that difficult. Next is Eat My Flower Trail, which is winning 2 races against Ida and Hyate. Probably butchered those, but anyways, you have to beat them 3 times each to unlock the trophy, so a total of 6 times. They can be a little bit annoying by dropping random spike balls, but honestly, they're not too bad. Doggone Fast. This requires you to be Kai in a race. This trophy definitely gave me trouble. You need to race Kai in Yospet. I probably butchered that as well, but this place has a ton of obstacles like giant snowballs, icicles crashing down, branching pathways, trees throwing stuff at you. Again, this one was probably the hardest one for me just because it took me dozens of attempts because I kept getting slowed down by obstacles. My best piece of advice is use a video guide to figure out where the best shortcuts are and just practice it. This one is all about practice. And lastly, Who Let the Dogs Out? Defeat the Kusa 5. This is basically a battle where you're challenged by 8 warriors. I believe it's 4 at once, then 3 for the second battle, and then 1 final fight against 1. These are quite a bit challenging, but as long as you're spamming healing items or consumables in general, it isn't too bad. Again, this is probably best saved for like when you're at the very end of the game, just before going up to the final boss. And we'll be taking a look at the trophy list here in a second. Overall, a very beautiful game. Definitely one that warrants a look at it. I definitely suggest at least playing through it a little bit. However, trophy wise, you're looking at like a 60-hour platinum trophy, possibly longer. For me, like I said, it took me 80 hours to do. Definitely could do it in a faster time. And again, while there wasn't many difficult trophies, there was a lot of collectibles for sure. And honestly, if collectibles aren't your thing, then I probably would stay away from this one. But like I said, it's not that bad. Again, the one that I struggled with the most is probably that race in the forest. But I had a good time with this, and honestly, I would say at least play it because it's beautifully artistic, has an amazing soundtrack, and from there you can decide, hey, do I want to get this platinum or not? And again, just be warned, there's a lot of collectibles, but for me, it was well worth it. Anyways, that's gonna be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Sorry that it took forever to come out. No real reason, honestly. I was just not recording, but hopefully the next video won't take as long. And yeah, Hope you guys liked it. Like I said, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And I hope to catch you guys next time. Eat well, sleep well, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.